Okay, this video is going to discuss some math functions that we can use in Java. This is in 2.2.4 in the textbook. They do have a list of many more math functions that can be used in Java as well. We're just going to take a look at several of them. And so let's look at the first one, which is the math.sqrtx. So obviously, as you can tell by the name of it, that it does calculate the square root of whatever is inside the parentheses. And so you could have variable calls, you can have numbers, you can have calculations, different things in there. The thing is, it's going to yield a double. So even though you might have an int in there, an integer, it's still going to yield a decimal. And we'll show this later on in JGrasp. X, of course, has to be greater than or equal to 0, which we should know from math class. Another math function is the math.pow method, and that one then is, hopefully that makes sense to you. It's a power, and so we're going to deal with an exponent. So it calculates x, the first argument in the parentheses, is the base, and then y in this case would be the exponent. All right, so it calculates x to the y power. So again, you can put name variable calls, and you can put regular constants in there as well. Then we take a look at this, that it yields a double. So even if you just have ints in here, it will still yield a double. And then if x, for some reason, if x is less than 0, then y has to be an integer. So you can put a y could be a decimal. The exponent could be a decimal, except when x is less than 0. In other words, when it's negative, then the y, or the exponent, has to be an integer. And then math.abs, hopefully that makes sense to you as well, absolute value. And so it'll find the absolute value, which basically means it's going to yield the positive value, or positive for positive and negative values. So if you have a subtraction problem in there that's going to yield a negative number, then this will yield the difference, but it will give it as positive and not negative. And so that can be helpful in different situations. And then the other one is math.max x, y, comma, y. So you have max, and then you have the min. And so these should be fairly obvious as well. And that is, of course, that you take two different values. You could have two variable calls in here, and it will take the values of each of those and compare them and decide which one is larger. And so that's the larger will be the result, or what is returned when using this function or this method. And of course, this is for the other side is for the minimum, the lower, the smaller number. All right, so those are key things that could be helpful, things that we would use more than others. And so just to look at this in terms of JGrasp, I thought I'd make this kind of quick and just show you how this is going to work in JGrasp. And this is something you're welcome, of course, to try yourself in JGrasp to see it actually functioning. So in here we have math.pow 3 to the 4th, so that's 3 to the 4th power. Okay, so which is going to be should be 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. So this should be, we see this as being 81. Now the problem is, though, it's going to return this as 81.0. As we said, it's going to result in a double, returns a double. Now then the SQRT also returns a double. So the square root of 144 is 12, but it really is going to return a 12.0. And then if we take the absolute value of num1 minus num2, well, this is 4, because num1 here is 4, and minus 9, which that's going to be negative 5, but the absolute value, of course, is 5. So this should result in a 5. And then the last one, it's comparing num1, which is 4, with num2, which is 9. Now 9 is the larger number, so it should return a 9. And so what we do is we clear this, we compile, and then we run it. And then so you'll see here that 81.0, 12.0, 5, and 9. So this all works like that. Now one more thing to look at before we go, and that is, let's say that we change the max here to, let's see, we have num1 is 4. Let's change this to 3.1. And let's see what that does. You have an int, and then you have a double. Now notice that 4 is the larger number, but because one of the numbers is a decimal, that means the answer is going to be a decimal, even though the larger one is the int. Okay, so it's following those Java rules that we have happening, and the same thing should apply up here with the absolute value. All right, so those are the main math functions that we would be involved in for this semester.